Hello, 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 marketers, advertisers, and brand builders. Welcome back to the Scaling Lab, the show where we break down what's actually working right now to scale direct-to-consumer brands, from creative and psychology to media strategy offers, and today, trust, credibility, and authority. I'm Jairet Crum, Director of Client Success at Jairet and Kira Media, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host with the coolest name in copy, Kira Hug.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Scaling Lab. We are so excited about today's conversation. This is something that I've been wanting to talk about for a while.
Yes, absolutely. And this is one of those topics that I keep bringing up because I think Blake actually hit me up when I was posting about this on LinkedIn, and then him and I met up in New York, and it's really cool to bring you in and put a bow on this conversation because I think it's super important.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that we know matters, but not many people understand how to do it well and kind of understand the strategies behind it. And I love that we're teasing it so much because we haven't actually said what it is.
Exactly. So, the difference between real credible authorities and actors, which we see in the game. So we're going to get more into that. But right now, want to just give a quick little intro to our boy Balake. Sorry, I had to get that out of my system.
Please, no, it wouldn't be right if you didn't.
Exactly right, Key and Peele. Blake Hartshorn is the founder of the AIM Company, a company operating at the intersection of brands and real authority. AIM specializes in connecting credible authorities like health and medical professionals, doctor, lifestyle experts, even athletes with brands that need credibility to increase trust and influence in today's ad environment. So what's interesting about Blake's work is that it's not just endorsements or like surface level collaborations. This is real brand alignment with, collaborative aspects. So he does a lot of work diving deep into finding the right professional for these brands. So yeah, before we jump too deep into that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Blake, and let you give us a little bit more of a rundown about yourself, the AIM Company, and anything you want to say about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for having me, guys, and excited to be able to talk with you guys on this stuff today. It feels like this has been sort of like, the last 10 years of being in this industry, it's all felt like some secret underground world, and somehow in the last 5 years, I feel like I stumbled deeper into this hidden niche, which was, figuring out that for me, I had always seen the early Gundry stuff and said, I want to be developing that. I want to be developing, the best in class VSL that can be made where we can put a real expert behind something where, we can really back up the copy in a way that really just celebrates that product and offer to a whole new level. So yeah, I've been in this game for about 10 years now, purely in the direct response arena, really around video sales letters, working with affiliates, agencies, etc., to scale to, 7-8 figures and more. I've had the pleasure of working with some incredible teams, and I've been able to put my skill set on blast, being able to, go out there and find the highest strategic alignments that I can for brands related to what that product and or service may be. So yeah, I'd say the last 5 years it really started to heat up, and I think the conversation, for whatever reason, I feel like I stumbled into something that more and more business owners are running towards and are looking for, and it seems like a black box that most people just don't know exactly how and what to do. But, to be honest, there's not too much complexity here, and I'm super excited to talk about it today, and to, share what works and, what I think, any business owner can take to really level up their game, 10x in this next year coming up for 2026.
Awesome. Yeah, man. So to give a quick callback on the context of that LinkedIn post that reconnected you and I, because, we had chatted over the years and some things, but when I posted that, if you want to win in VSLs now, you really have to play at the level of essentially a golden hippo. There is no more space in this industry for the ugly VSL that's just a voiceover. It might be AI, it might be an actor, whatever, but you're just doing voiceover. And less we're able to get away with, I think, the actors. Some people are still doing it because they're upping the production quality, which is another layer that it's not just green screen in the background. They might have custom B-roll and that kind of thing. So people are able to take kind of that actor authority and transmit it across. But that's kind of the full context of what I was talking about. Of the biggest VSLs that we run, the best direct response offers that we run are doctor forward. They've got somebody on it. That person has a real reputation, so that when you search them out online, you're going to find something real and not if it's an actor, you're not finding someone. If it's just a voiceover, it's just a made up thing that you don't even get to connect it to a face. shout out to you for being so ahead of it, because I've really been talking about it over the past year that people have been complaining, so to speak, that VSLs are getting harder and it's more difficult. And you've been doing this or moving in this direction for about 5 years. So what kind of pushed you in that direction? What made you think that you really wanted to attach authorities on that? Was it just the observation of Gundry and Hippo and those kinds of offers, or something deeper that you understood about like credibility, authority, and whatnot?
Well, the first thing was at the time when all this started happening with, with Gundry, et cetera, I'm a shoot for the stars kind of guy, and I was, operating, doing a lot of affiliate work, trying to, kind of unlock every, potential to get, each brand an offer that I was working on to 100 plus sales per day. And what became glaringly obvious was from the biggest partners that I was always trying to, secure, I'd look at it and I'd say, I don't want 100 affiliates. I want 5 affiliates who are the most meaningful partners that I can do all of the business with, have it all within arm's grasp, and focus on real long-term relationships. My kind of need and desire started from realizing I can't even play with the big dogs that I want to be running with, who are capable of producing 200 to 500 to 1,000 sales per day, because what they're asking me and what the networks are asking them is, hey, we need something that is more credible, that is more backed, that, it can't be this ugly PowerPoint kind of VSL, whatever it might be. That the standards I could see early on were changing in that direction. And if I wanted to, serve clients in a way that, could put them in a place where I could be excited about, getting to that 8-figure or more mark, then I knew that the sort of ingredients needed to change. On top of that, it came from a perspective of, I think everybody at some point sees the good, the bad, and the ugly of different layers of direct response, and you go, wow, like there are many ways to play the game. And I was sure that I wanted to play the game in a way that I thought only a small percentage of teams were doing. And, look, I'm a dad of 5 kids, and for me, I'm like, I want to be able to celebrate and showcase every single thing that I work on with everybody I know and be super excited and proud of it. And for me, that was always, how do I work with real experts that are adding immense value to what the product is? Being able to take a product that is a great product, but when you have somebody who could sort of transcend and showcase the meaning behind the product, or give them that aha moment that allows somebody to go out there and actually change their life, make a decision to try one more time to solve that problem that's been an issue for them, to me that was like, okay, this is the way to impact the highest amount of people with leverage versus trying to whack-a-mole everywhere.
You mentioned that the last 5 years, things have been heating up in this space. So I would love to hear about, like, kind of high level, but what's been happening? What are some of those milestones in the VSL space related to these medical authority figures that we should be aware of, because it's important to what's happening today?
I think some of the big stuff, so I think it all started with, working to appease certain platforms where business owners would say, wow, I really need to, that you can't only play a claim heavy game. You need to actually be able to balance that with true authority where the words have more impact. So if you may not be making egregious claims, which none of us should be to that degree anyways, but for how a lot of guys were playing, it was, we're either going to make really aggressive claims, or we need to have somebody who brings a new element to the picture that allows even softer claims that are realistic and exciting still to be able to be celebrated in a much bigger way, so that consumers could still have that aha moment that they're looking for to be able to make a change. So I think it started with a little bit of, again, the platforms, sort of having favoritism, obviously, to when ads are scaling on their platform. If their CEO stops in and sees, what is this running front page on whatever network it may be for the last 30, 60 days, and is this acceptable? And they have people to answer to as well, board members, etc. And so I looked at the whole chain of this, and I see, okay, there is a sort of happy medium between all of these things, where when we can create a great product with great copywriters and a great authority, we're going to outlast our competition by way of, being able to, the doors being able to stay open for us. Platforms like Google, YouTube, Meta, Facebook, etc., just being able to extend their arms out saying, okay, hey, we want more of this. This is helping us. We're driving the ad volume, but we're also doing so in a way that the board is happy and that everybody involved is happy with the type of scale that we're seeing. It just makes for a much easier flow of business. And then I would say even more so, I think in the last year or so, with the rise of AI, we're stepping into the realm of what is real anymore. And I mean, there's so many things that I see where, I look at and I go, oh my gosh, I want to believe this, but I know too much, like the structure of what a good hook is and all these things, that I go, okay, well, this is obviously AI. And then, you start to see, different bad actors ripping things where, you might have a credible authority out there and all of a sudden, a speech that they're giving is then being construed into someone's product that, they have nothing to do with. So I think consumer trust is, at an all-time low as far as like, what do we trust out there? And having a brand that can sit as a sturdy sort of fixture with also an authority that can be searched, that's visible, that has relevant experience in that space, especially relating to the product that they're interested in purchasing. I think all of those things coming together are influencing customer decisions, and those who are hitting those notes the right way are having access to sort of scale that I think others just are not going to earn at this time.
Yeah, so to that point of whack-a-mole that you mentioned before, and I know there's a lot to unpack there, but just thinking simply of the kind of PowerPoint VSL that became a voiceover B-roll VSL, that became an actor VSL, that kind of transition, I think because of this crux point that you're talking about with AI, I think it's really tempting to think, I'm going to go out and I'm going to create an AI doctor so that I can get that authority. But then we're right back at the actor position of where you can't really verify that it's a real person. So anyway, I'd like you to just expand on that. I know I didn't really have like a question there, but thinking about how we're getting to this point where I think people haven't had to fork up the cash for these doctor deals, or if it's not necessarily an MD, but some other credible authority that is a verifiable person with credentials, et cetera. It's really seducing to just create an AI avatar and go out there and try and do it that way. Have you encountered this? Have you seen anyone doing it? And what would you warn people against it if that's how you feel?
The big thing I see there is, with the technology, it's obviously doable. And there's going to be folks who are going to push the limits of what that can look like, and I've seen it already happening. But it's not going to be a lasting game. It's not anything, there is a short-term possible win, but it's not going to be anything that is going to survive the test of time when it comes to monthly recurring revenue or having any kind of subscription model. That's absolutely going to, fall flat in that perspective. I would say this is that, again, in this day and age of AI, when we can create almost anything at our fingertips, I think what becomes more and more important is real people. And the people that exist are going to remain almost the last asset of like, okay, this is like a real verifiable person. They actually have done the work. They've put in the blood, sweat, and tears in these categories. They understand it better than so-and-so influencer. We know that we see a million videos today of, for content and for engagement in the algorithm that are, any given person with zero experience speaking on topics that they have actually no background or experience in knowing, aside from maybe like a quick search. But that search, we doubtfully, assume that they're looking into any NCBI or PubMed studies or anything where any real footwork has happened, and it's usually just sensationalism. So I think right now, the big thing that I see is more, valuable and more valuable as we go is the need to be able to associate something to a real person, a real human who has care, who's developed something with passion, who is an expert on something. Because in the end, I'm looking for, I'm always looking for a team who has a great idea, a great big idea, and a great product. And I'm looking for who is that authority, no matter what kind of background they might have, who is on a true parallel path and parallel mission, where it's like an unassailable question. You look and you go, okay, well, obviously this guy or this girl is enveloped in the world of this, or in the world of gut health, or in the world of blood sugar, and why are these things important and why do they matter? Those are the people that I think more and more consumers are, in the end, going to be wanting to buy from, because we're going to get very tired of constantly being misled down these rabbit holes of what, this product and this sounds great, but like, is it real? And then I think the consumers right now, every single day we're having to ask ourselves, is this real? And so going to be more systems and more technology that will be in place to help you not have to ask that question and say, is this real? To be like, no, here's like a banner. This is, here are the measures that we know that like this is like, not put together. Or even in any case, is this a real person that I'm watching on screen? Are they searchable, right? And I think those types of technology will be available because they're meant to help consumers make reasonable decisions. And that's where I see all of this, going. And I think that really puts those who are marketing and working with authorities, it doesn't matter if they're high level or not. An authority can be an authority with 5,000 followers. You know what I mean? And they can be a true authority. And we can get into that today. But, it's not about the follower count. It's not about, it's about who they are as a person, what their credentials are, and their ability to transmit a message that is able to be digested for the general public.
Yeah, it's funny that it's so easy to create these AI avatars as medical authority figures, but it's just as easy for your audience to take a screenshot, upload it to a chatbot, and say, "Is this a real doctor?"
Real quick on that too, is actually what I was saying in the previous episode that is titled the Death of VSLs. Is if you remember a few years ago, Meta rolled out third-party verifiers. And so it's like now they've reeled that back because they've improved their internal processes. But now we've got AI emerging. And so it just feels like it's something that has to come back. They're going to have to do it. To Blake's point, and it was something I mentioned in that episode, that like consumers are calloused. They're, this filter of is it real, and just not being able to trust things is at a whole new level.
Yeah.
So let's dive into what makes this great authority figure. You've already hinted at a couple things as far as like follower count might not matter as much as we think it matters, but what are the ingredients that you're looking for?
Overall, I think the big thing to start is, do they have credentials? Okay, we got to start there, because if we're searching for anything, we have to figure out, do they have the foundation to be able to speak on whatever it is related to our product. So do they have credentials? If they have credentials, cool, we can move forward to step one, but not before then. Because if that isn't there, there's nothing for us to build upon. So I would say having credentials is, one of those first keys. That's going to vary depending on your product. It might be that a chiropractor is your ideal candidate. It might be that a neuroscientist is the one. It might be that a nutritionist is like the perfect authority over a medical doctor. It doesn't even, to be honest, in my opinion, matter so much, that it is a specific credential. It matters what your product is, and it matters what your product is here to solve, and it matters if that person is closer to that information than the next person. Because look, we all know that MDs are not getting 4 years of nutrition information in their medical school. So it all matters what your product is and what its focus is and what it's here to solve. So I'd say that's step one, is credentials. Step two is sort of they need to be a beacon. Even if they are not a loud beacon, they just need to be a beacon of somebody who is passionate about something and is on a mission related to this topic. So whatever that may be, they should already have some base layer of content. Even if no one is saying it, but you found them, they need some base layer of content that shows that this is something that they are passionate about, that this is something that they are interested in, that it's something that excites them, and that they want to be talking to people about it. So I would say, having that passion is like step two. And normally, yes, you can find folks who they may have zero, footprint. They might not be creating the content, but they may have a blog or have some other means. And you're like, can this person, would they be able to transmit this through video? And that's a question that you can ask yourself, and you should definitely still, if all other things are in alignment, reach out to those folks. It doesn't need to be, a massive paid engagement. Sometimes you really just need that person who is that expert, who is already showing those things. You'll find doctors who have numerous studies on the thing you're talking about, but they don't have a video presence. But if you can get that doctor on the phone and they say, look, I've never done this, and I know I've never worked in front of a teleprompter, but I'm open to it, and I think that I could. I want to talk to that person, and I'll work on getting a video sample with them that I'll coach them through. And then I'll say, could I work with this person on set and help them understand the intonation that the VSL or that the scripting requires? So again, a little bit of it is we're going to be, credentials, passion, and that potential to basically lead a conversation. They need to be fluent. They need to have that sort of charisma that allows them to transmit these feelings and understanding these emotions in a way that can be received, right? They need to, have obviously our copywriters are going to simplify things as much as, necessary to allow consumers to understand. But still, if the doctor, is unable to also speak freely through that scripting, it's not going to land. It's going to have a little bit of a mismatch there.
Yeah. I've definitely seen doctors like fall flat. You put them on camera and they're experts, but you put them on camera, they kind of freeze. They don't have, like you said, the intonation. So that's super cool. You're on set to actually, I know you were going to a set when right after New York when we were meeting up. You actually go on set and you coach the doctor through it so that you actually act as a producer as well.
Yeah. It's crazy because the big thing is this. It's like, you're not going to just film a script. I've had it where teams were just like, oh, then we hired a production crew and they're filming with the doctor. You're not doing your writers justice. You're not doing your product justice. And look, this comes from a place of understanding what a VSL looks and sounds like, what a successful marketing piece looks and sounds like, what it conveys authority and what detracts from authority. what conveys trust and what pulls away from trust. And these are all important things that when you're on set, I am, watching and listening like a hawk to, I'm watching the VSL in full, but in a way that I'm like watching the final cut. And if I don't hear the sentence or that line in the way that it should land in the final cut, we're just redoing that line.
Is that something you backed into, or you did that from the start? Like, I'm wondering, okay, you backed into it because you were able to create these relationships, find these doctors, and whatever the brand that you were working with sent out a production team, and then it fell flat and you had to reshoot it or something like that.
Actually, from the very first, I was not, and I had an authority who I was super excited about. Then I remember just being like, this is terrible. This is like, and just in a sense, it's just, look, because the production teams, unless they live, eat, and breathe and sleep VSLs for the last decade, they're not going to understand the nuance that is required to understand what does that actually come out like. They just go, well, like the line was said, and it should be fine. But how you say what you say is, how you speak the copy is, maybe more important than the copy itself. Because you can have an authority where the copy is not even the strongest, but the authority takes that copy to a whole new level. Tom Cruise said something about Miles on the new, Top Gun, and he's like, the guy's like, how do you always manage to like get the best roles and choose and pick those best roles? And he's like, I don't. He's like, I find a great script and I create the role, and he pulls that character from himself, and that is his addition there. So ultimately, the doctor needs to be able to bring that copy to life, even if the copy is soft and does not have the life you think it should have to convert. If that doctor can convey those things in a specific way that allows that consumer to feel that feeling, feel that trust, have that understanding and that aha moment, you are solving that problem. You are taking care of the issue, which is lowering their guard of, I'm just being sold to like, I actually want to listen. Let me be a student. This is, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. From the very first stances, I wasn't owning that process in full, but then I saw the need and I said, okay, here's how we have to do this. It's not enough to just sign the doctor. It's not enough to just sign the doctor and hand over the copy and then they approve the copy. We need to, get the copy approved, but then we need to be there on set to ensure that, they don't know what it needs to sound like. You might have some great speakers and some great orators. They're going to take a really good swing, but there are some things that, really from my start 10 years ago with some of the best copywriters in the world who I started with, I learned very early what lines matter, what those need to sound like, what needs to hit hard and what is more, leading to that point. So that's where I just kind of realized, yes, we absolutely need to have more of a hands-on approach. When you can get on set and you can make the authority feel comfortable, let them feel light and breezy, because look, these are long scripts, often 25 to 45 minutes in length. To record those over the course of a production day, it does take a lot of, you need to be encouraged. You need to
mental energy.
Let me zone in. Yeah. Oh, it's a lot.
Need some breaks in there.
Yeah. So as what I do producing on set, it's really creating a safe environment, making them feel comfortable to stop the production at any moment. We're just going to sit here and, you can go call your family and chill. And we're going to jump back on as soon as you're ready, because there's no need, all these feelings come through the camera if we're not ready to present. So, I found that was a super important key. And, I've been able to have doctors that I felt did not have the media experience, did not have the speaking experience. But I said, I'm going to be on set and I believe I can make this work. Turn into, 600 plus sale per day offers that, maybe shouldn't have or wouldn't have if I wasn't able to help them just see, this is the way that we just need to hit these lines, allow them to feel comfortable, create the right pacing to get those things done by the end of the day.
So when you're on set, what builds the trust? Like, what are those little things that matter that build trust that you might guide your authority figure into doing? And then what erodes trust very quickly that we should watch out for?
Yes. Okay. So it doesn't start on production day. It starts on the very first reach out in the very first conversation. So, what I would say here is doctors are getting approached constantly by teams every day. And they're telling me how many people are approaching them. And what I'm being told is, I'm talking with you because I see that you guys are speaking my language. So the difference there in what erodes trust and what, kind of earns that trust is you need to have a product and have a reach out that is aligned. You need to also first see that authority for who they are and for what is already special about them that you see as special because you have aligned interests. That's step one, is like, wow, I watched your content on the gut-brain axis and thought it was totally fascinating how X connected to Y. We're working on a new product that is currently using that ingredient, and we are really excited to bring it out to the world. We'd love to have a conversation if you're open to it. It's starting with that first alignment of, I see you, I see that, we are definitely have some alignment here, and whether we have an opportunity to do a deal or not, thank you, and I appreciate that you're getting this information out there. I would say that's kind of like a first thing, is being human first, showing appreciation and showing praise for the path that they're already on. And if they're, in a place that they're open and interested to talk to you, then great, that's a win. You move that over to a phone call or to email where you're kind of sending them more information about the product, and you're saying, hey, here's what we're doing, here's a little bit about it. One of the things that you got to be willing to do is be like, throw any and all questions at me. I'm here for you to kick the tires. I'm here to answer any and all questions that you have. If you're not satisfied, we're not satisfied. We'd love to have this opportunity to work with you, and we want to make sure that we're leaving no stone unturned. So having that openness as a company to also showcase that, we've developed this with our manufacturers, with our experts, with our researchers, but we understand that you do this in practice every day. So if there's something that we've missed, we'd like to know, because this is not the end all be all. For some teams it is like, hey, there's no chance we're touching this, but for the right authority alignment, most teams will look at that and say, wow, we should add this small component here because it's really important to understand that consumers may also be taking X if they're taking our supplement. So, with that, it's showing that openness that we're constantly learning too, that the standard of any business that is reaching out is to have that, that top tier of product and to have something that is unassailable. That shows that, hey, we're not going to ask you to do, we're not asking you to just throw your name on something. We're asking you to join a team who has a purpose and who has a mission. And at the end of the day, we want to help people by doing this. And we see that alignment that we can work together to make those things happen. So that's another trust builder right there, is just being open to them sharing their authority and to not be afraid of like, oh, well, did you do a study on this? And it's like, hey, you know what? Maybe we don't have clinical trials yet. Everything we've developed in our supplement is based around clinical relevant dosages. And these are ingredients that have been around for 100 plus years and have numerous studies, and we're very confident, and we have X many customers who are already giving us high praise. We're really just trying to take this to the next level, and this is where we see things.
Yeah, summarizing something you said, it sounds like coming across with a thank you versus I want to use you. Kind of saying thank you for what you're bringing to the world, instead of, hey, I see that you wrote about this and we have this product, like we want to use you as a vehicle to sell more of this product. Right?
Yeah, big time. I think that's a great point. Again, people need to be seen, to have that line of delineation where it's like, hey, no harm, no foul. If we never do anything, like, I'm just appreciative that you're already doing this, and it's a good alignment and good one to reach out either way. But I would say all of it, and then when it comes to production day, you're really just letting them know, hey, like, you're gonna mess up. We're all gonna mess up. We're gonna get through that day together. That you don't have to. When we're doing a VSL, you don't need some long, perfect takes. We just need a clean read of each line all the way through by the end of the day. And we can get that in a simple matter. They order any and all of their favorite snacks, drinks, whatever they would want on set. I have that prepared on set that day. We're catering. I'm like, boom, I got you this coffee. I got you this.
That would sell me. I would be in.
Kira would do it.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like, here's your a vat of M&Ms that just as you requested. No, but their special water, whatever it is, like letting them know that, like, hey, like, my job is to cater to your comfort for the day, because you're gonna be doing the work, and I'm gonna make you as comfortable as you can be to get that work set through, because it is a lot to do in a day. But most doctors are not necessarily, surprisingly, like, doing it for the money. They will do, there's maybe they went into this this expertise for the money and this and that, but they're not, oh my gosh, yes, you want to offer me some exorbitant amount of money. Okay, yes, I'll do it. I'll slap my name on the side. That is like the biggest insult to any authority that you could ever offer. You know what I mean? What they're looking for is, am I going to be in good hands? Can I trust you? Can I trust that we see the same things and that we see the same gaps in the industry, in the world, and that we are both working towards the same thing? If they're going to put their name, image, and likeness behind this product for 2 to 3 years or 2 to 5 years, whatever it might be, they want to make sure that they are protected and that they are working with people who are like-minded. So those are, I would say, the highest factors to anything to really develop that trust with that authority.
And then as far as, I don't know what you're able to share, but like for someone who's doing this and wants to build this relationship, and maybe it's their first time working with any type of medical authority, obviously they can work with you and make everything better and easier. But if they're doing it on their own, how would you guide them into setting up just like even the initial contract? Would you do a trial run, and how would they think about compensation, just even if there's some rough guidelines?
Look, I'm totally open on this stuff. Like, this is something anybody can do. The secret sauce is, can you show this authority that you are trustworthy and that you are passionate and that you are aligned? You know what I mean? And if underneath things it's really not, it's going to come through at some point. So, I like to do this. I'm not big on trial runs, this and that. It's either, do you see it with that authority or not? And what I do is I usually try to set up contracts that are low weight on either side, where, hey, whether that's paying on a per, kind of like in the affiliate world, we're paying on often a CPA, let's say, and for this, it's, hey, we're going to pay on a per production day basis. We're going to pay a fee that you are excited about, so that any and every time we enact a production day, you're getting paid that set fee. And along with that fee is we're baking in that name, image, and likeness, or that use of those assets that we make for that 2 to 5 year period, whatever, maybe a year period. Essentially, that structure is one that allows it to be fairly low weight and predictable for the brand, but also something that the authority is able to negotiate to the term where they're excited and they say, you know what? Sure, okay, if I'm not getting a royalty, if I'm not getting X, Y, and Z, that's fine. But every time I show up and I have to produce something, I want to be earning this fee. So, that's the way I like to make things very simple. I usually also like to interject a content day fee. So there's production day, which is a long form where full lights, camera, action, everybody's, aligned. I'm there, all that stuff. Then we have sort of a content day fee, which would be, under 4 hours of work, where they approve pre-scripted ad content that we believe, hey, it's either new concepts or going deeper on concepts we already have. And we're setting them up essentially to record from home. We can send them the equipment. If they don't have the equipment, we try to make it as easy as possible. And then having a secondary fee structure for those content days. So, usually for a lot of brands, it might be 1 to 2 production days per year, and then it might be 4 to 6 content days over the course of that year. And what's good there is that, the brand is only enacting those fees when there is the need, when they have the opportunity. So they're not in some long monthly, retainer usually, for this relationship. And that allows it to be a bit more predictable and low weight, I would say.
No, I just love the simplicity in that. It feels like it would work well for both parties.
Yeah, and I know some people do per bottle. So you mentioned just for content. You guys, is that something that's brand by brand, or do you try to bake that in to take care of them? They get like a 50 cents, dollar per bottle, whatever, sold.
So I would actually say this. So when it comes to the royalty conversation, right? It all depends. So that's where the team needs to be more ready and aware in their accounting to be on top of these things, to have that, whether it's a monthly or quarterly payment, whatever it looks like. That's definitely a great thing to enact, especially if look, there are going to be some authorities that they're just like, if there's no royalty, they're just not going to be interested, period. And that's fine too. And so for those, just what you said, right in that range, I think is a great place to be able to start, where you just set up expectations as far as, does it start from month 1? Does it start at month 3 or month 6, where that even applies, where the team gets the ability to get things rolling and get things in the right spot? But effectively, yes, that is sort of the third, I would say, like tertiary compensation that would be, it's like production days, content days, royalty, and then the last I would put is really just CPA, just where it's like, hey, you're not obligated to post in a lot of these, because we're going to create our marketing machine, and we're going to work with our partners, our internal teams, our affiliate partners that we work with that are trusted to grow this. So it's not that we're banking on the authority to drive sales from their own personal page, because we know that posting, and you're not going to get the reach for the most part, even if you have like a 1 million follower, doctor, it's like the reach is just generally not going to be what it used to be back in the day to relate to sales in that capacity. But yes, that would be the royalty is absolutely something to bake in, especially when you want to show, hey, we want to see you grow as we grow. And I think it's a great model to do, for the reason of, when things are growing and we have those good problems of scale, the authority is going to have a halo effect, which is going to drive good and bad engagement. Because no matter what you do in this world today, you could be, feeding the homeless, and people are going to find a way to hate you for it. You know what I mean? There's always going to be something, So I think the royalty really helps that, as we're growing and as the exposure is doubling down, that the authorities feel more secure, in that they're constantly, seeing the benefits as well. If they are seeing some trolls here and there that are generally a very small amount, but trolls aren't fun for anybody.
Yeah, I remember a doctor who set up a call center to handle all the calls because we scaled up a funnel so high that she was getting flooded with calls daily because people would look her up online. They would find her clinic. So anyway, yeah, she changed everything to like a call center for people to, redirected people back to the brand anyway, because it can get really big.
These are the good problems of scale, and these are things I do speak with my authorities about too.
But some of them were complaints to your point, I guess, about trolls. I was going to say some of them were complaints, and so I think she was making so much at that point that she was obviously willing to invest in this call center to like redirect back to the brand because it was like, hey, the paycheck's worth it.
Yeah, exactly, and that's those things that you have to look at, and those things I like to pre-frame too. I say in a perfect world, this starts taking off. If they have a practice, I go, your clinic will start to get more calls. So here's a couple things we could do. We could set up an IVR and then route those calls directly to the customer service team. So they say, if you have a question about blank first, press 1. And then that's like, okay, we take an immense load off of their office team and things like that. But these are things that I like to pre-frame with because we will see them at scale. And depending on where that authority, if they have something to capture any of that in a positive way, and or if they're just getting flooded with calls at their clinic, we sort of need to plan around that because, again, the relationship does not stop at the end of the production of the VSL. It is ongoing throughout that process of especially that brand scaling, staying in line, staying in lockstep.
Yeah, really it only just begins, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yes.
I have 3 more questions, so I don't want to like hog the mic here, but I want to get back to adjacent authority as it relates to ads because it's something that we've definitely used in ads and we've seen it work really well. And you kind of touched on it earlier. Adjacent authority has this idea of like if it's a pet product, doesn't have to be a supplement, but a pet product, and you would expect a vet to be on it, essentially saying this works, et cetera, et cetera. Something that we actually did in the past and saw really great success with was adjacent authority pet groomer. And this could go for like multiple things. I don't have another one right off the cuff, but I wanted to hear from you about that because I know that on your website you talk about, lifestyle and you also talk about athletes. So how are you looking at that if you diagnose authority in terms of, hey, you can actually do better with an adjacent authority here because it doesn't need to be an MD or specific health expert? Because the example you used was nutritionist. And I think that's a great example, but they are still kind of not a medical doctor, but still a trained professional on kind of a science-based trained professional where, I don't know, how do you evaluate that? And are you evaluating that?
Look, so at the start of any kind of search, I look at a PBM, a perfect business match, and I think of who is the doctor authority and who are those adjacent authorities that are highly relevant to this. So on a pet brand, right, it might be a pet groomer, it might be a pet trainer, somebody who is in the thick of it training police dogs, and you're like, whoa, well, this guy is obviously the guy. I mentioned nutritionist. I looked at the early a handful of 7 years ago, maybe, Smarter Nutrition with Dr. Nancy. She was a nutritionist and an incredible fit for the Smarter Curcumin story and, took off in ways and earned themselves a lot of favoritism, I think, via Facebook of being a great, clean funnel that worked very, very well. So, I think she worked great as sort of this adjacent or alternative authority to that topic. But I look at everybody who touches that problem, and if they interact with that problem, interact with the getting to the solution in any way, or advise people, especially advise any celebrity clientele, whenever you can pull somebody who's like a celebrity pet trainer, right? They're a pet trainer to dogs who are in movies, right? You're kind of getting into like a different pizzazz of you're an expert, but an unexpected expert of what I was looking for. And I see how, like, obviously, yeah, if I want my dog to be able to do X, Y, and Z, this makes sense that I would first nourish their brain or nourish their this function.
Yeah. I love that you said unexpected expert because that's actually what we called it internally. Anyway,
that's a good one. Yeah.
Are you testing them against each other initially, or are you going all in on one? Like, are you vetting them and then you're like, this is the person, let's forget about these other ones, or testing maybe multiple initially?
It depends on the client and the team and their appetite. So there are some that are like, hey, yeah, let's test this primary authority who we really think is going to be the one. Yeah. But then let's also test with this adjacent authority, let's say, or the unexpected authority who we all feel really good about. Usually a team is, kind of looking at one or the other as far as their investment goes, because they're putting all these things together, putting the I'm putting the production together for them, all those things. So normally it comes down to usually choosing one, and choosing one is going to come down to, myself, the owner, the copywriter, all fusing our minds and saying, what is the most undeniable story here? What is the most, which story, is this story being told already? Is it too much? Is this a new story? Are we bringing something new to the market? Those are the things we have to look at. So I would say generally it's one, but different brands have different, production capabilities and appetites as far as how much they're willing to invest. And on those, you are generally getting, hey, boom, this is going to be the doctor, this is going to be so-and-so. We can also ask to use them on our advisory board so they complement each other. That's something as well that can take place.
Yeah, we are coming up on time, and I'm going to try to bake my two questions in together because I think they do complement each other. So another callback to longevity, and we name drop Golden Hippo, we name drop Gundry, and I'm thinking of authority as a vehicle for longevity. And obviously we're expecting higher conversion rates because you're increasing the authority and credibility on that funnel. And something that I've noticed is a little bit of lower AOVs on funnel that actually have doctors. And so you're compromising a little bit of AOV for a higher conversion rate, which can translate into more net revenue, right? And so thinking about how to tie all of those concepts together, thinking about how traditional DR brands that maybe don't have a credible authority are definitely not experiencing the longevity that a doctor forward direct response brand are. And then oftentimes they're also pushing for a higher AOV or as high of an AOV as possible. So I guess with those three things in mind, like the question is, have you observed more longevity with the partnerships that you've been able to create for these brands? And do your brands notice, if you have this data, that they get a better conversion rate, but potentially a lower AOV, but again, that still translates into more net revenue and that greater longevity, so they're making more money and for longer?
So let's say this first. The longevity, and I have authorities that I brought onto brands that are 5 years plus still running and still active and still producing new things, which is great. But what I would say is this. I think where the compromise in AOV is coming up is that when we're going with a voiceover and or an actor, we're hammering as much as possible that focus of the, let's say the 6 bottle package, whatever that top package is. We shouldn't, overall, there oftentimes I will see with doctors where they go, oh, this is like really hitting hard, and most are actually fine with it and they understand the thought process. But for the best results, we need to be prepared to purchase these higher packages. It makes a lot of sense. There's usually a lot of great data behind it, but I think if anything, I'm wondering if some of those may also be softening up those closes, just because some authorities are going to be a little bit more or a little bit less comfortable with the hard sell at the end, which is boom, here's the final opportunity. And here's the next steps to take. And I have seen some where they effectively leave it as like, so pick the package below, or the 6 bottle, the package below, whichever is best for you. And
one
it's
that's best for you, yeah.
Way. That's nice. It is very nice. But with the right product and the right authority and the right alignment, they're going to want to say, so purchase the 6 bottle package. Because here is why. Because when you invest in the 6 bottle package, you're making a decision not only for today, but you are guaranteeing that the future, your future self, the one that you're here and the reason why you're still watching today, is on this path, and this wasn't just a one-time fluke. You didn't just purchase it to forget about it. You're purchasing this to make the commitment, to make this change once and for all. And that right product and the right authority and the right fit there typically should be able to relate to identical AOVs. It is just hard because I think some of those that are not using the authorities, they're naturally just, clipping a bit more aggressively. That's all. And so I think that may be some of the tendency I'm seeing there. But a lot of the teams that I'm seeing that I'm noticing are not having that AOV issue are still recording the first video upsell and the second video upsell on production day. So with the writers, we're baking in those back-end videos of if they didn't purchase the 6 bottle option or the higher option, any higher option, that we have video upsells that are helping to encourage and showcase, if they didn't, why there's still time to and why it's still a good idea to do so. So those are things I would say, kind of on that stance first. Also, I would say yes, the burnout rate on a brand who maybe doesn't have a VSL authority and maybe right now they're making claims that are slightly over their head and that is their tool to earn that conversion to be competitive. They're oftentimes going to inflate what their product is doing or can do. And so whatever that initial purchase was, is going to tend to be the last. when you have an authority who not only is creating a VSL for this product, but then is also working with the brand on this other product, you're actually creating a web of trust of there is more to know here. There is a path, there is a mission here. There is somebody who, I didn't just see them once and I've never seen that webpage again and I've never seen that name again. I've seen them once and I've seen them here and now I realize they have this kind of product, and that I think lends to the overall longer term relationship of, if I'm sitting here and I am trying to make these changes, especially with my health, that I am trusting more in those teams that are in it for the long run, that are not just fly by night, that I saw one time and have never heard from again kind of thing. So those are kind of my notes on it.
Yeah, man. Well, the last thing I'll say before we pass it over to Kira for her questions is the AOV piece came up because I'm looking at two different digestion brands where one is around 220 and the other one's around 270. Guess which one has a doctor and which one doesn't. And then another one that's a brain supplement that's around 300 and another that's around 400. Guess which one has a doctor and guess which one doesn't. And so it's that kind of a thing where like the other two are using actors. And so there's, they've still got a person on it, but an actor is a lot more willing to say those like stronger claims and push people harder than a doctor is. And the other thing that I saw there was that the conversion rates were higher on those lower AOV funnels. So yeah, I thought that was an interesting one for you. And if you had seen that on your side too, or if the brands had reported any of that kind of stuff to you, or if that was just something isolated, because again, I'm looking at like an N of 2 here. If we think about each comparison as, one sample. But
it's really interesting. No, it's really interesting. And I can see it. And I do, it kind of lends back to that initial thing that the actor is more, they are there for the ultimate sell. They are playing the role for the ultimate sell, for the ultimate effect. And for the authority, their overall purpose is to sell, but it's mostly to educate you and mostly to show you the way and to show you the light, to be that guru of sorts who gives you that opportunity to see the path. So I wonder if it's lending into that, but those are some, pretty solid data points that I want to watch more.
All right, we can treat these last two like rapid fire-ish. I want to know a mistake that you've made along the way over the 10 years, or something that is just so common that it's more important that we actually know that mistake.
Okay. Ooh, good one. Okay.
And also how you overcame it and fixed it.
Yes. Okay. So let's say a good mistake I've made. One was just biggest one was just throwing the doctor in with a production team. You've sent them a couple VSL examples. You're like, this is what we're doing. And you're like, yeah, they're going to nail it. Like, unless they have done this nonstop, they're not going to exactly know what to get from that authority. So you will get a script that is read, but you won't get a script that is performed. So remedy that. Have yourself or your, like, if no one else, your copywriter knows how it should sound. Even if they're not a producer, your copywriter knows how that should sound. And they want it to succeed, and they're going to sit there and say, okay, like maybe they are or are not good at giving direction. But those are things that I think they should be super mindful of, is like your writer may be your next best asset if you don't have somebody who is creatively, kind of already working on that. So that is one kind of easy fix there. And then I would say another thing, let's say, is make sure that your authority truly understands. Always, up front, show them an example of what you are creating. So like if you are creating this level of things, right? I want to show them like a Gundry or a similar brand, and or one that the brand has already done with another doctor. You want to show them the full of it. You want to show them, so this is where we come in. This is where we're going to hook the consumer. Here's where we're going to introduce the unique mechanisms of the problem, help them understand what that is and what's happening. Here's where we do this. But you want it to be as visual as possible, as early as possible. Because they might be like, yeah, this is great. I love this product, all that. Then they get the script and they go, oh, this is like, I don't understand how. And it's like, set up expectations from day one. You know what I mean? After that very first conversation, you might have already told them that, your machine is via video marketing and all these things, but make sure that they have a clear example, because I have had it where I've had an authority who, was like, well, I understood we were doing this, but, this is just too much. This feels like this. And in the end, it didn't work with that authority. And I had to swap and find another authority. And somehow within like a week, I found an authority which was unheard of. And I signed them, and they ended up working really well for the brand, for a dental product. And I'm super happy about it. But the person I had initially was a high level, super Beverly Hills style authority. And, it just didn't work. And I realized, wow, I must not have done I did not give enough clarity as to that final product. Even though I spoke through all those things, it's like, give them the actual, 100%, give them the actual type of asset that they must see. They must know. Otherwise, you're just wasting, everyone's time. And luckily, I saved it at the very end. But So that was definitely some mistakes, I would say.
I wanted to tie a quick parallel into ads. Is we had actually shot off ad scripts because I know oftentimes here in the Scaling Lab we're talking about ads. So just to quickly connect it for listeners to ads. Years ago, I had shot off some scripts to talent and it didn't come out the way that I want. So then knowing how, to the point of copywriters knowing how it should come out, at the time I was a copywriter and I just recorded myself. This is how your delivery should sound, and then sent them Google Drive links so that they could watch my videos. They reshot those and they came back perfect. So, that's something if you're not getting talent, and yeah, this was an actor. I know a lot of times people now that work with creators and give them creative license to do their own thing. But if you are working with actors, a lot of brands still work with actors, show them, or to your point, show them or you will be disappointed.
Yeah, it's so true. No, you got to be specific, and you got to really show them. It's all about the nuance with what we do. Obviously, every moment matters in creative, and even more so these days. So yeah, I totally agree, Jared. Being able to give them that verifiable use, if nothing else, create a Loom video of yourself going through that content. How should it feel? That's a great step to take.
All right, so where does this all go in the year ahead? What are you most excited about? Because this is. You make a prediction.
Okay, so this is where I see that I believe things are going, okay? I believe the use of AI is going to, go up, 500x or something even more insane, right? Yeah. And we're probably going to be using platforms that are, more and more 100% AI driven. We're going to have marketing that is clearly discernible because consumers have to be protected. I think the need for a real human body who understands and has expertise and can be verified. You see YouTube already has things like, oh, this content is from an authority with a medical license, things like that. That's going to increase because consumers have to be protected. The government has to protect consumers. And right now, no one has any idea. And we are at the infancy of, oh, wow, we didn't realize, all the implications of where this could go. So my prediction, and I didn't do this because I'm a smart man, I did this because I just fell into it and I can see the pattern, I think where things are going, is that brands are going to earn trust by having real people in front of them who these systems can also at a glance be able to verify and have whatever check mark that is showing that, wow, this is like a real thing. Okay, this is from a real orthopedic surgeon. This is from a real X, Y, and Z. Those things are going to almost increase viewership just because it's a real piece of content, which becomes more and more and more rare. There's the dead internet theory that eventually all of the internet's content is going to be purely AI generated, and you will basically have maybe you'll have any ability to see human created content. That is something that will become currency, is real human content in a sea of, sensationalism that
AI
just
slop
is running rampant. Yeah, no, I mean, look, that's my prediction. And, I feel like I fell into something that is special without realizing that it maybe would come to this. But, I think, I'm voting for sort of humanity in marketing as being sort of a tool that becomes the new currency.
I was going to say, I feel like that is a great way to wrap up this conversation, putting the humanity in marketing.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say as a segue, man. We really appreciate all the information that you've shared here. Really appreciate your expertise and diving deeper into this topic that you and I kind of sparked back in, I don't know, man, April, June, I don't know, whatever. First half of this year, that's for sure. So if someone's interested in working with you in the matchmaking business that you've built, the AIM company, where can listeners find you?
Best email. I'm not on social. I'm barely, I am head down building and developing. And again, I have a big family and, I kind of, everything I do is almost purely by referral. But, reach me by email, reach me by the website, either or. Those are great ways to be able to get in touch. And I'm always happy to have a conversation and brainstorm.
Awesome, man.
Thank you. This has been awesome.
Oh, this has been great. No, I appreciate you guys.
That's a wrap for another episode of the Scaling Lab. Blake dropped a ton of value about scaling with credibility and authority, and specifically working with those spokespeople in studios and how to develop those deals, partnerships, and relationships. If you have any experience, either bad or good, in working with credible authorities, drop them in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. If you're digging what we're doing here at the Scaling Lab, consider subscribing. And if you'd like, also click that bell icon so that you can get notified whenever we drop new episodes. We'd love to have you along for the journey. That's it. We'll see you in the next one.